Good morning. Morning, everybody. Welcome. It's 2 minutes past 10. I see we already have 38 people in the virtual room. So thank you for joining us this morning. We've got quite a full agenda. So I don't think that I'm going to wait any longer. We're going to continue with the presentation for the webinar today. Today is session 2 in our fireside chat, and it's really around the conversion or the transition to QCTO and what that looks like at the minute and what we can expect after 30 June and obviously what we can still do between now and 30 June. With me today in this session is Lisa and Johanna. Lisa is our National Quality Assurance Manager. She's also responsible for our accreditation, and she stays very close to what's happening in the QCTO arena, and she's going to share some of her insights with us today. Joining her is Johanna. Johanna looks after our assessments and moderation and all CETA liaison. So she's also very close to the changes that's currently happening within the CETA and responsible for all things LMIS. So today's session is very informal. We have gone with this approach of a fireside chat, and the reason for that is we want to sort of balance conversations around. It is a webinar, so that means that the video and voice has been restricted. But if you do have questions, please pop them into the chat. We've got Stephanie from our marketing team who will pull up any interesting questions and share them with us, and we'll try and address those before the end of the session. However, if we don't manage to address them in this session, then we will answer those questions when we distribute the presentation. So yes, we are going to share the presentation with you. So if you've registered, you will receive a copy of the recording and, of course, also the presentation. For those of you that don't know me, I just realized I didn't introduce myself. Well, good morning. My name is Mark. I'm Managing Director of Kwelanga Training, and I'm also one of the co-founders. Next year will be our 20th year in this business. So we've seen a lot of changes in landscape with accredited training, non-accredited training, learnerships, qualifications, all the rest. And through all of that, obviously trying to make sure that we deliver a product that our clients really love, not just use, but love. I'm going to start the presentation. I'm just going to move through to the next slide quickly to talk you through the agenda. And then, Lisa, we're going to hand over to you. But before I do that, 3 key areas that we're going to cover this morning. Number 1, understanding the QCTO shift. So how do we prepare for that change? Number 2, training and the B scorecard impact. We're going to have a look at how does that unfold. And then number 3, sort of legacy learnerships and unit standards, and what can we still do up until 30 June. Right. With that, let me go. I went one too far. Let's go to that one. When you registered for this particular webinar, there was a short questionnaire. Lisa, I'm going to hand over to you just to cover this section, because I think there was some interesting information that came out of that.
Yes, absolutely, Mark. So we're thankful for all the questions. And what we've done is compile the answers to all the questions posed. Well, we grouped them, consolidated them, and Stephanie has put them into a document. So you'll be receiving that with the presentation after this webinar, and you can then have a look. And if there's any other questions, you're welcome, as Mark said, to post them to us. Email, we'll give out an email address. So what we've done here, it was too much for the webinar to go through all the answers. So we're going to address a few of them, and the balance will follow, and then you can scan or use that QR code and the summary will be there. So Johanna, I know you've got a couple of answers to a few of the questions. If you could just take yours first, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Lisa. Yeah, one of the questions that was asked amongst the others was phasing out, the exact date of the phasing out of the legacy qualifications. The legacy qualifications that were extended in 2024 were not given the last enrollment dates beyond 30 June 2026. This date is currently the official last date for enrollment for any of those extended. Should any one of you like to confirm the date, you are free to consult with the SACO website. The exact end date will be given then. This is for all the exact date of the phasing out. Then in terms of how, the other question that was raised is how do we accommodate the learners that are currently busy with legacy qualifications? For those learners that are already enrolled on the legacy qualification, they may continue and complete the approved teach out period without disruption. To confirm the last date of enrollment for those learners also, we can consult the SACO website. It will give us the exact date of when will this qualification needs to end. But everyone who's been enrolled will be taught until the end of the enrollment date. Thank you so much, Lisa. Over to you.
Johanna, so yes, please remember jargon is all important here, the language. So Johanna mentioned the last date for enrollment. It will be on the SACO website in the table on the unit standards or the qualification, and the last date for achievements. If SDPs or anyone you want to know when they will be allowed to finish, it's the last date of achievement. If they haven't been uploaded and applied for external, you're not going to be able to do that beyond that last date of achievement. Okay, normally 2 to 3 years, but we can't categorically state that for everyone. Go and do a little bit of homework. And then another question that popped up was, what is the difference, or what is the biggest difference between the QCTO and legacy learnerships? So this is where the QCTO is coming on board and saying, right, we need consistency across our country. Because with the legacy learnerships, there was no external summative. It's POE building. And now they're saying, nope, there's too many inconsistencies in that approach. I think what they're also concerned about, we do also know, I've got a particular word internally that I use for the high number, the companies that churn out big numbers of learnership candidates. So what they're wanting to do here is ensure that no one is assisting these learners with POE building, and how credible are those qualifications that the learners are achieving. So they've said, right, you're all going to do an external integrated summative assessment. So that is what has now been attached to the QCTO, the ESA, okay? And also the other thing that they've elevated is the workplace learning. So they're saying this whole thing, we know with legacy learnerships, you had to have a supervisor sign off, and there's a lot of admin around that, and people groan when they have to do it in the workplace. Now they're saying that is not working. So workplace mentorship is important. So you have to then have workplace mentors available, and they've got a specific role. So with QCTO learnerships, they've clarified roles in terms of what is the responsibility for the SDP, the skills development provider, what is QCTO mandated to do, what are the employers mandated to do. Because even if you're going to have host employers, if they don't do the workplace component accurately, or the way in which the QCTO would like it done, you're going to be tripped up. Okay, so it's around consistency of national standards now. Johanna, you had another one, I think.
Yes, Lisa. One other question that was asked, it was in terms of the workplace approval. Most people were concerned about the workplace approval because of the timeline. So with short skills, QCTO has confirmed that we do not need a formal QCTO workplace approval. If the program includes a workplace component, you will need a formal agreement, an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, or an SLA with an employer to support the delegate that requires that particular experience. But there is no separate QCTO workplace approval that is required for short skills program. So that will give us enough time to make sure that there's no back and forth in terms of acquiring anything in terms of running their workplace experience. Thank you, Liz. I think that is all.
Yes, and then with that, Johanna, it's also important for people to note that please go and read the curriculum documents, or ask us if you're wanting to know if there's a workplace component, because it's clearly outlaid on that document. So for instance, conflict management that we are currently accredited for, QCTO, that program doesn't have a workplace component. Okay, so it's not all skills program will have the workplace component. We've got to be careful, but all qualifications will definitely have it. And then there was a question around the ESA, the dreaded ESA exams, okay, and the restriction of the number of exams per year. So yes, unfortunately, there's no body that says, okay, you have to have 4 sittings of a particular external integrated summative assessment. So there's no rules around how many you can have. But that is the role, and I saw in the questions that were asked, there's quite a lot of concern around what is the QCTO's responsibility and where do the CETAs play now, okay? But the CETAs are the bodies that are mandated by QCTO to go and still be concerned with quality. So wherever that qualification sits, that particular CETA, the assessment quality partner, that CETA who helped develop the curriculum documents, that was the coordinating body, will set the ESAs. And now that's around how many assessment centers are present in the country. What is the capacity to run their ESAs? So unfortunately, at the moment, remember it's a phased in approach. At the moment, if people are finishing their qualification, they might have to wait 2 or 3 months before they write an ESA. Is that good or bad for the learner? Not particularly good. But we're going to have to wait and watch how this proceeds. And if industry gets involved, we can also have a say at CETA level. And this is where I think, and you'll see it in the next slide, where industry, they invite industry to participate, okay, to set these standards, to ask for things, to move it forward in a way that's conducive to all parties. And then one of the other questions, and that's where we're going to leave the questions for now, was the accredited training versus staff or business needs. Now, we all know from legacy, and I don't think it changes much into vocational qualifications and vocational skills programs, where formal qualifications or B-BBEE compliance is needed. Obviously, you're going to go the qualification and skills program, the accredited route. But unfortunately, that doesn't always solve business challenges. So Kwelanga is in the place where we solve businesses challenges through human-centered training. So you've always got to weigh up as an employer or a client of ours or a client of any other training provider, what are your performance and capability requirements? And will it be better served by accredited programs or a customized program or a non-assessed off-the-shelf solution that an SDP has got? So it's always about the right solution for the outcome that you're looking for, not purely about compliance. And we've got people in our team that can guide those conversations. Okay, so Mark, that's it as far as the questions and answers go. And thank you, Stephanie, for putting it into a format that our clients can appreciate.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Johanna. And of course, that document will also be shared as part of the presentation that goes out. Very good questions, I think very pertinent, and also shows the level of interest and concern around this transition to QCTO. So here's the question, Lisa. What are you seeing as challenges in the current transition that employers need to be aware of? Now, you might have touched on 1 or 2 there in the questions, but from a consistency or a generic standpoint of view, and also, by the way, we are viewing this entire webinar through the lens of the services CETA because that's where our accreditation lies, but the fundamentals of the process still remain the same. So Lisa, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Mark. So I think, yes, and some CETAs are more ahead than others, but it is around us being aligned with the services CETA. And then just watching, we do belong to lobby groups, we belong to many newsletters and mail shots. So Johanna and myself, keep our finger on the pulse with what's happening. So one of the biggest things here, well, we put it into this graphic so it makes better sense and it's easier to digest, is obviously there's a concern, and I saw it in the questions as well, development of QCTO programs. What is there to replace all these legacies? And people are feeling it's going to be a big shambles come 1st of July. And then there's a direct workplace impact. And then there's this question around the summatives, which are touched on, the ESA, and then there's the FISA and the credits. So If we look at the development of QCTO programs, we're going to be running through a few slides. Johanna's going to talk us through a couple too, where you can see what's out on the table in this generic management and biz ad that we look after and play into. And so, yes, there is limited. Services CETA started putting their foot on the accelerator around about October, November last year. But there's a lot happening, but there's a lot that still has to happen. So we'll go through that just now. Vocational, definitely, versus the generic. You can find glass blowers, you can find bicycle repairmen, you can find anything to do with a mining operator, but they're all vocational. It's not a generic field. Services CETA is currently busy. There is good news with the generic management and biz ad, so that's good. Industry alignment, they want industry to play a part. Okay, so they have these stakeholder forums where you can be elected to be present when they are aligning legacy qualifications, okay, looking at what was and what this has to become, and they invite industry representatives. And you're welcome to put your hand up through your CETA and then see if you can get nominated and then voted into this, because they only allow, I think, 2 clients or 2 employed, industry representatives on each of these forums to look at the different qualifications. But if you're an SME, a subject matter expert, please put your hand up, because that's how you're going to get qualifications and skills programs that matter to your industry. One of the other questions was around 1-for-1. There's certainly not a 1-for-1 replacement. Okay, they're not taking legacies and saying, okay, for that legacy, we need an equivalent QCTO. They're bunching them, okay, because there were too many qualifications on the NQF. And then the direct workplace impact, I have dealt with that a little bit about the workplace mentors, but the workplace approval process, Johanna said no for short courses, but definitely for qualifications. But your SDP will take care of the workplace approval process if they're offering the training against that qualification. Okay, they have to apply for workplace approval, but there will be a process that has to be followed, and they're very strict on OHS. Okay, so it's things like that that matter. Mental expectations, Kwelanga Training will be running induction and have little handbooks and that to help people phase into that. Longer programs, oh goodness me, did we have fun and games trying to see how we could push these 8 credits that are 10 days into how much contact time. So we've got a recipe for that, and it worked well, but it's still longer durations. You have to get your head around that, and they're wanting this consistency. And buddy system requirements, a lot of the exercises are around get your partner, get a person, a peer, to evaluate your assessment or your formative activity and give feedback. So it's this leaning on people, which is all good around workplace learning. Summative and credits, well, the FISA, please also know that you might know this, but it's conflict management is 8 credits. We have to close out that program with a 3-hour exam, invigilated exam. Okay, it'll be at your workplace. However, it's going to be like matric exams. No cell phones allowed, a facilitator manning the floor to check that there's no cheating going on. We have to have multiple FYEs that we can roll out so that confidentiality of those FYEs are protected. So it's really like if you picture what happened at school level, that's where we're going with these exams. But again, it's about national standards. And then the ESA, obviously, SDPs are going to have to get their hands on past papers. How do you prepare? Because it's all about the preparation. And if there's a delay, how do you keep that person still in the zone before they write the ESA? Recognition of QCTO skills programs. Remember, the credits are not on the NQF, they're on the QCTO framework. Okay, so you do get credits, but they're not recognized at NQF, they're in the QCTO. So that's it from me, Mark. I think the next slide is for Johanna to take through some of those qualifications that we spoke, the replacements.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate that. So lots to consider. I think it's, there's a lot of expectation around the movement to QCTO, but of course, all of these plans come with internal considerations that we need to be aware of, and quite a lot of effort that needs to go into getting yourself prepared for that particular scenario. If we look beyond 30 June 2026, what learning programs or opportunities remain available? Joanna? Share.
Okay, the ones that the QCTO skills that are registered with Kwelanga Training, we're currently having conflict management at level 5. and we've got the material, everything is ready to be rolled out. The only ones that I'm going to read out through are the ones that are currently awaiting learning material development. They are already been registered with QCTO, only awaiting learning material development. We've got effective problem solving and decision making at level 4, team motivator also at level 4, managing workplace discipline level 5, and onboarding and resource management for team success also at level 5. So those are the ones that we are also waiting for the development of the materials. Lisa?
Excellent, Joanna.
Yeah,
so
so
over to the next slide here, because this looks more like, in fact, continuation of the programs.
Sorry about that. I don't know. I picked up distortion there, but these are the programs that Services CT, you can see I put there November and December 2025. These have now gone through a development phase and they're wanting comment from certain stakeholders. So contact center, but that's a skills program, 12 credits, contact center, workforce planner, 12 credits. And here we come to a level 3 admin assistant, that one that's going to replace, but can you see it says level 2 and level 3 BizAd is combining, and they're going to have a level 3 admin assistant. L5 corporate general manager, they haven't got the credits ready, but that's to replace our GM5, okay, the 59201. And first line general manager is out as well at level 4. So those are the ones, we've got a learnership with that, and we offer the short skills programs within the legacies, but they're combining, they're realigning generic management with all those LPs, the admin one, the general, the HR, and the level 3 management. Okay, they're having a look at those 4 legacies and they've put it into one. And then the level 5 higher occupational certificate contact center supervisor, 130 credits, was redesigned and it's out for public comment. So we can go to the next one because there's more coming. This is where we start also watching because they're moving towards more skills programs. But here they've had public comments come in and they've now held these consultation sessions to go through the level 4 contact center agent, 120 credits. And there are some skills program, or the part qualifications coming through, 64 credits, 58 and 66 as part of that qualification. And then they have also reviewed the workplace essential skills. So that is out for comment during November. And then they had December deadlines, but a lot of the December deadlines were rolled over because of people being on leave and all that. So the next slide shows us some skills programs that we are, I think there's one before that, Mark, this one, yes. So slide, that one. So scoping meetings, they've also, so where Kwelanga Training is always interested in the short skills programs because our clients tend to want that. Some are learnerships, yes, but the shorter. So here they're looking at some of the 59201s, which is GM5, okay, the GM5, and they're wanting to focus on those. I've listed 4 there, 8 credits, 4 credits, and 5 credits. And then customer service liaison, they're looking at that monitor the level of service to a range of customers and measure customer satisfaction. That is what they're going to. So if you look at the strategic leadership skills program, it's like a learning program from, if you want to look at legacies, it would be like a learning program, right? An integrated skills program. So they're going to combine those 4, and for customer liaison, combine 2 and make 1 program. And in diversity management skills, they're going to focus on bringing in 2 of the GM5 unit standards into 1 skills program and rewrite for the QCTO. Okay.
Lisa, any indication as to, I mean, obviously they've had the scoping meetings. These look like really good programs. What is sort of a realistic timeline before this becomes readily available for us to engage in?
It's difficult to say because of the stakeholder meetings and if they postpone. But the November, December, they're giving tight turnaround times. Like they'll send something out and give about a 2-week lead time for people to respond. And then they're going to move, but then it's got to sit with the QCTO. Remember, once the services CETA has looked and said, yes, this is what, then it goes for review to the QCTO. If the QCTO, they send something back to the services CETA, one of them, and said, listen, we've got these questions and those questions. So then they've got to answer to the QCTO. There's a time for that. And we know, QCTO said we've got a 90-day turnaround time for our accreditation. Well, Johanna, I can't remember. How long did it take? 6 months, 8 months?
90 days.
No, but from the time that we applied to getting it was much longer than 90 days.
Yes, that was six months for us to get accreditation.
For us to get accreditation.
Accreditation, yeah. Correct.
So they might say it will take X number of days, but once the QCTO then registers it, only at that time, and we've spoken to our content developers, we've got our tentacles out everywhere, they have got no line of sight until it is registered on the QCTO to get the approved curriculum document. And only at that time can they start developing the content, the learning material. So Johanna, could you just tell the group what was our one turnaround time? We asked about the problem solving and on that first slide, and how long did they say till the learning material will be ready?
When we checked on that, they said at least 3 months to get it on the shelf, but it's not exactly because they're looking at the credit. So there's a number of time that they need to put in together for us to get the material ready. But yeah, that's all that they're getting.
On an 8-credit program, someone said if I don't have any other projects and I'm just doing that, it's a month turnaround time. But they've got multiple projects. So we're looking at 2 to 3 months to get learning material. And then, only then can we apply for accreditation as an SDP. Because part of the accreditation, you've got to have all your rollout plans. You've got to show them matrices of all those outcomes. So it's quite so I would say you're looking at a 6 to 8 month program before we can roll out, being the SDP, but then QCTO might, so it might be a year before we've got accreditation.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Joanna. I think you've answered my question. I suppose what this highlights is that, just when we switch over to 1 July, we're not necessarily going to have this basket full of products that we can use right away. There's still going to be some time for development, some time for re-evaluation, and then accreditation before that actually becomes available for us and our learners. And I think the risk there, and this is something I'm going to flag again later on in the presentation, but if you've got BBEE scorecard targets and you need to achieve it through some kind of accredited training, whether it's short courses or qualifications, if you don't have those products in your CETA as vocational qualifications and you need to look elsewhere, just be aware that it's not suddenly going to be there. You need to build in the time. And that the other thing is there are legacy programs available, and you can still take advantage of those by registering them up until 30 June. And just to be clear with that, Lisa, it means that there's still an exit period after that registration deadline. So in other words, if I register individuals for a particular legacy program before 30 June, I've still got some time to exit them, 12, 24 months in some instances. Is that correct?
Correct, absolutely correct. Yes, so even for people who want to enroll, what we did with that extension in 2024 was that we'll give a cutoff date so that we can make sure that they're all enrolled on the LMIS. And Services CETA then doesn't worry if we only train in 3 months' time or 4 months' time. But you just have to make that commitment to enroll the learner, and then we watching, and we will have that conversation with each client to say this is how long you've got to phase it out. Okay, but it will be in ours. I think it's all 2 years, Mark.
Okay. I think that's an important point to note. 30 June is for some organizations their financial year end, and could be a busy time, and they might not necessarily want to embark on the training just at that point. Or it could be a seasonal time of increase where you can't afford to take people out of the workplace. So what you're saying is, as long as the learners are registered on the LMIS before the cutoff date, we can still do the training later on in the year. So I could maybe target October or September, if that's a quieter time for my business, as long as I've registered those learners, and with the knowledge that once they register, I can't swap out learners or anything like that.
Correct. I was going to say, the only risk is that you can't swap out. because we won't be able to sneak someone else in, and we can't fraudulently give someone else's ID. So yes, okay.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. I think just in terms of what we need to start doing, because you've touched on some of the areas. So what can employers do now to start getting ready for the QCTO environment? Is that
good
Lisa,
question.
Joan?
That's a good question there, Mark. As you have said, that this move is not something that is going to happen immediately. So most of the employers, what we need to do, you need to stay informed through the continuous monitoring of what's happening in the QCTO. The mapping of skills gap. This gives the employers enough time for them to map skills and PDP to QCTO programs only now. That will allow them enough time to prepare. Them again, it will also allow them time to prepare for the workplace for authentic practical training and mentoring. As Lisa mentioned earlier, that the buddy system is what is mostly required with QCTO. So all this time that these things have been prepared, this will allow ample time for the employers to make sure that who are they assigning as mentors, who can, for this particular program, who can look after which department for which in terms of mentoring the candidates. Also, in terms of transitioning learnership pipelines to QCTO qualification, it will allow them to do that easily. Also, in terms of policies, Mark, when you look at employers now, because of we are moving to QCTO, this time will allow the employers to update their internal training policies to reflect the occupational learning, workplace learning, mentor appointments, and the guidelines. It will give them the guidelines of what else can they put in the policies in terms to make sure that they align with the QCTO. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Johanna. So I think that's a good summary of what we need to do, to prepare ourselves. Yes, we've captured it in maybe 5 bullet points, but there's a whole lot of work if you unpack each one of those. Right, I want to zoom out for a second because we've been fairly focused on QCTO. Yes, Lisa, sorry.
Mark, I just want to add there, I don't think employers need to panic though, because if you've got a trusted partner in an SDP, they're going to have a frank conversation with you and say, this is what you can do now, this is what you can't do, and beware of this and beware of that. So again, we just invite you as a team to consider your needs and have those conversations earlier rather than later. And that whole transition can be, guided. So yeah, don't panic.
Thank you, Lisa. And I think that's an important point to make because it can seem fairly overwhelming. A lot of you have gone along the journey. We've, partnered with you in certain areas. We can chunk it out. So I think partner with your provider, walk the journey with them, and then let's build something. We've still got time. Then I want to zoom out for a second because we've focused quite a lot now on the QCTO, the transition period, what's available, unit standards, etc., etc. But let's have a look at quickly what is the market saying about where is the demand for skills. And so what I did is took a look at the 2025 Workplace Learning Report, which one of the things that it did was highlight the fastest growing skills for 2025. So obviously this is a mix of technical and human skills, or what you might have known as soft skills. Those seem to be the priorities. And when we zone in on human skills, because that's our area of expertise, these are the kind of programs that are coming up or being identified by executives and CEOs as the fastest growing skills required in their organizations. So I've just pulled out a few examples here: conflict mitigation, adaptability, emotional intelligence, resilience, critical thinking, problem solving, and communication. And that's just to mention some of the bigger highlights, some of the critical mass areas. And it's important because as L&D people, yes, we've got to monitor this transition from legacy to QCTO. We've got targets, not all of us, but most of us have targets to achieve on the B scorecard. But on the other side, we've also got this demand from business saying, hey, we need this in our workspace. Our team is lacking in this particular area. So how do we find the balance of getting all of these things right? And I think that's the juggling act we've got to play in the L&D space. Stephanie, I believe I've got a poll ready. Is the poll ready And I'm going to pop a next slide just for this question. So here's the challenge. If you had 1 million rand to invest in people development right now and before the end of your business financial year end, what would deliver the best value for your organization? And there's 4 options. Number 1, accredited programs. Number 2, non-accredited business aligned training. Number 3, a blend of both. Or number 4, I'm not sure. That's why I'm here. Steph, is that poll live?
Yes, Mark, it's up on the screen now.
Perfect. I'm going to quickly stop. So have a look and see what we can see here. Okay, there I see the poll up. Okay, so we're seeing some results coming in. The majority looking at a blend of both. And I think that speaks exactly to that balance of finding what the business is looking for and what we need to do to achieve our scorecard targets. Accredited programs also shaping up quite high, almost a quarter of the responses. And then non-accredited programs only making up 10%. 7% of you at this point are unsure. And hopefully by the end of this session, you might have a better idea of where you would spend your 1 million rand budget bonus on training. Wouldn't that be nice? I don't know of any organization where the CEO suddenly comes and says, hey, quickly, you need to spend 1 million rand. What are you going to do with it? Stephanie, thanks. I think we've got the answers there. 23% accredited programs, 10% non-accredited, and a leader by a long way is a blend of both, which is around 58%, and then not sure around 10%, same as non-accredited training. Happy for you to close that poll, and then I'm going to share my screen again. Let's go back to this slide. So I'm going to talk through a quick visual breakdown of how accredited versus non-accredited training can contribute. And for the purpose of this example, we're going to talk to a generic scorecard. I'm assuming then, just team, if you can let me know that my the Excel spreadsheet is up and everybody can see it. Okay, great. I see a thumbs up there. And let's quickly minimize that. Right, so what we've got here is an internal calculator. So the disclaimer is that this is used internally when clients want to look at a specific component of the skills development element of the scorecard. And this is related particularly or related specifically to the generic scorecard. And what we do here is we have a look at staff count and payroll to determine where the best value is going to be for your scorecard. So in this particular example, I'm going to use the national EAP targets. Those we use to draw specific demographics when it comes to BEE. We're going to talk of a payroll of, let's make it 100 million. And let's talk about a staff count of around 1,000, keeping it rather generic so that it's easy to work with the numbers. So if this is your company and your payroll is 100 million and you've got 1,000 staff, you would be looking to spend 3.5 million on skills, 2.5 million on bursaries, and you can allocate your 25% cap of 875,000 to category F and G, and that'll get you to your 6% target. If we break it down further, and I scroll down, if we're looking at learnerships, so to achieve your learnership target, you would need to put 50 people through an employed or put 50 people through in a learnership. This is the population breakdown, and there is where's the demographic of where you need to spend it. So that gives you an idea of race and gender in terms of where you need to spend in order to get the maximum target for learnerships. So the reason I'm going to this example, because let's say now we get 1 million rand and we're trying to achieve, and if I look at the majority of the responses from the poll, people are trying to achieve a blend of what's best for the business and what's best for the scorecard. So on my 1 million rand, I think, the quickest place to get return on investment is around learnerships. So if I go down to learnerships, I can go quickly and have a look. Did I achieve my 50? If I haven't, then certainly that's an area that I'm going to target. The big challenge with getting that right is that you have to get the demographic in terms of race and gender. Now, if you exceed the demographic target, you don't get any points in that area. So you've got to be quite specific around race and gender. You might also find that if you're doing an employed learner, that you don't have that demographic in your workforce, and therefore you need to go and look outside, and that could potentially complicate the target. But that certainly is the area where you get your biggest return, because for employed learners, you can still count their salary spend as part of that target. And of course, you also get the 12H tax benefits. So there's number one priority. However, the challenge is getting that demographic correct. Now, if you've already allocated everything to learnerships, second place you might want to look at is this category F and G. Now, F and G, you've only got 875,000, and I can assure you, judging from our conversations with clients, that target gets achieved very quickly. So there's not much more that you can get out of your scorecard spend, and it might just become a non-accredited, non-allocated spend on the scorecard if you decide to do a category F or category G program. And then finally, the last thing you can look at here is accredited training, your category E. Now, accredited training are those courses that could hit the sweet spot. We've already seen now from the workplace report, the 2025 workplace learning report, that there are short skills or human-centered skills that are delivered as short course programs. So if there are accredited programs like problem solving or critical thinking or emotional intelligence or conflict resolution, all of those, I know for sure there are legacy unit standards that speak to those programs. So you could go and spend them on accredited training, and you could get that done by the 30th of June. Post 30 June, it's limited. So your risk is, if I've already maxed out my learnership spend and my F&G spend, the only other area that I can really look at in terms of total training spend is category E. And if I haven't taken advantage of legacy unit standards before 30 June, my options post 30 June are limited. I think Lisa explained the duration and timeline of getting those programs accredited, getting them registered, getting them approved before you can register. So the purpose of this exercise was just to give you a demonstration of what it could look like on the scorecard. If you were given your R1,000,000, where would you go and spend it? Yes, learnership's going to give the biggest return, absolutely. And there are currently legacy learnerships still available up until 30 June. But I think with some of the industries, vocational learnerships in some areas are already up and running, so you could explore that. Your challenge there is getting the demographic right, especially on the, and bear in mind that we are aware that different industries have slightly different targets on their scorecard, but the EAP targets are one of those consistent measurables across all industries. So that's something to consider. Do I have in my workforce the demographic that's going to achieve that target? If not, category F and G, you can see that target's very quick to be achieved, and you might have already exceeded it, so you're not going to get any reward there. And then finally, category E. So what is available in category E? Because there's certainly skills in terms of what's been identified as fast-growing skills that we can take advantage of now, but what will be available post 30 June, and what is the risk for me on my scorecard if I can't achieve that. So with that, I want to quickly pull back to the presentation and then just get back onto that slide. There we go. Steph, I'm not sure if there's any questions that have popped up in the meantime along the chat group that you want to raise now.
Yeah, no questions, but a lot of interest in your Excel spreadsheet. But I have said that we will touch base with all those who are interested via email afterwards.
100%. Please, speak to me. It's an internal document, and the whole purpose there is to help you try and identify those numbers. We do a disclaimer there because we rely on EAP targets released by Stats SA, and those can be sometimes lagging measures. But anyway, yes, we can certainly engage and assist on that space. That's what we're here for. Right. And then last thing, in terms of legacy learnerships and unit standards, I think for me, it's just to look at those areas, BA4, GM4, GM5, that are there currently offered by Services CETA. You could take advantage of them if you've got graduates coming through your workforce and you want to put them through on a BA4, and in some instances, those that have been identified for leadership on a GM4 program, then this is a good time to get them enrolled. And if you've got a scenario where potentially your budget's tight, but your financial year end is maybe February or March, we could also look at, you know, a balance in February in terms of payments and the outstanding balance in the new financial year. That allows you to manage your budget over 2 financial years, but at least get the program going and get the people or the learners registered. So that's the qualifications category E. We've still got all those accredited courses. Most of them are in line with those fastest growing skills that were identified in 2025. So if your business is coming to your business units coming and they're saying, please, we need help in this particular area with emotional intelligence or problem solving or critical thinking, there are certainly courses we can take advantage of between now and 30 June. And then if you do go the route of category F and G, so non-accredited programs, which are also adding value to your business unit, but not necessarily to the skills development element of the scorecard, there's an opportunity to leverage your provider or leverage their BE status to pick up the scoring on the procurement side. So go partner with your procurement team. So look, we're not going to score on skills development if we do F and G and we've exceeded our target. But if I'm, for example, working with a level 2 provider, I know that I can count their spend in procurement at 125%. If that provider is also a QSE, then that same spend gets allocated to the QSE spend. If that provider is more than 51% Black owned or more than 30% Black female owned, then we can also assign that spend to those categories. So the beautiful thing there is, okay, I can't count it on my skills scorecard, but certainly on my procurement scorecard, if I have a provider that ticks all of these 4 boxes with one spend, I can help procurement allocate that to 4 different categories. Now, depending on your scorecard in your industry, it might be slightly different, but generally you can cover more than one particular category if you've got the right service provider with the right BEE credentials. So I think that's also important when it comes to scorecard. So if you do category F and G, yes, it's not accredited, but bear in mind that there is opportunity elsewhere. Okay, so as we're drawing towards the close of the presentation, Lisa, I'm going to hop back to you because it's important now to share with everybody on the webinar around what proactive steps to take today to ensure your current and future financial year ends are strategically aligned with both compliance and capability building goals.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I see your B-BBEE has ignited some flames there, and the calculator, and so there's a bit of excitement and tools that one can use to be better at what we do. So here, I know you know we can all read it, but I think it's important, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we've brought out as a summary is you have to go and have a look at that scorecard and see where are the risks and where when accredited programs are not yet available for your needs, and see what you can do. So where these options are limited, go and have a look at the legacies. Consult with us. We'll help you if you're battling. But where you're going to be able to benefit your scorecard and the business until the 30th of June using those legacies. If your financial year end here, you can have also a double whammy because there are a lot of financial year ends February, March, April. Go and invest in the legacy programs for your current and the new year. Okay, so for your new year spend. So some people I know with February even, they'll come to us last minute and say we need to spend still, but yet they're also going into a new financial year, so they could use it for both years. So partner with procurement, as Mark said. have a chat. And this, I know a business partnering topic has become popular. And how do you partner with your people internally to get the right results for the business, the optimal results? Okay, not necessarily right results, optimal results. So go partner with procurement. We've got a course to help you do that if I'm marketing now. And yeah, achieve your scorecard targets. So go and have a look at what Mark had put out when you get the spreadsheet, and how you can have, you know, get more than one benefit on that scorecard. And then look at the current and future training programs that deliver the best value for you, that scorecard and business value. And that's when we spoke about not accredited training doesn't always solve your business challenges. Okay, so, and if there's nothing, remember the industry support that they're looking for. Go and partner with your CETA. Talk to us. We can also help you and guide that conversation, even though we, you know, we work strictly with the services CETA. So the key takeaways here, Mark, over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I think number one, enrollment for legacy programs end on 30 June 2026. That's been clear. There's going to be no extension. So make sure that you already review your sector plan, engage with your CETA, engage with your service providers. There are currently limited human-centered skills post 30 June. Doesn't mean that they aren't there, but we have seen that the time that's been allocated to completing them is at this stage quite cumbersome. But we know that that process will improve as we go down the timeline. Maximize accredited spend. I think that's very important. You've seen what that looks like on the scorecard. We want to get to opportunity. Absolutely maximize those areas. Then aligning training to business priorities. That's also important. You do have that push-pull. Yes, we've got the scorecard, but we've also got business asking me to achieve these goals so that they can solve their problems. Choose training with dual value. So I mentioned that. I think that speaks to number 5, and also it speaks to the scorecard. Plan for now, next, and the future. Don't delay. Don't wait until April or May. It's going to be too late. WSPs are coming up. And then optimize legacy spend while transitioning. So I think it's clear that there are still legacy unit standards and qualifications we can take advantage of, as long as learners are registered by 30 June. We've still got time to exit them another 12 to 24 months beyond that. So with that, we come to the end of the webinar. Stephanie, do you want to quickly talk us through the QR code and the explanation here?
Hi, everyone. So you can either scan the QR code on your screen. I have also put the link in the chat. It's a 2-minute survey just to see if you found value in today's session, and then just to sort of gauge whether you need any assistance going forward in this area.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm going to leave it up there for another 10 seconds before I go to the final closing slide. We've got 5 minutes left. And I think it's also important for me just to share that even though I pulled up that BE scorecard, that internal one, I'm not a BE specialist. I'm just making sure that you are aware of that. I've got a fair knowledge of BE, but I'm certainly not a specialist. So I always encourage clients to take what we've said, because that spreadsheet certainly provides guidelines, but take it to your BE analyst or your BE consultant and make sure that they can verify that the information is accurate, and they might make certain adaptations. But generally, we find that as a guideline, it's a fairly decent way to have a look at where to spend and allocate funds. And then finally, we don't want to end it here. We want the conversation to continue. This was Fireside Chat number 2. We're going to have another one in a month's time in March, and again around April before the WSP is due. So keep engaging with us, please. We've got a team that can help you. The contact numbers there, the email address is there. Please reach out. We can certainly assist for most part, and where we can't, we will be able to connect you with the right people who can take the conversation forward. So to Lisa, Joanna, Stephanie, thank you very much. I appreciate your assistance today. Thank you for the insights. I'm sure everybody found it quite valuable. And more importantly, thank you for doing it within the time frame, because there was a lot of information to unpack. And I know that when that email goes out, I think unpack it, go through it, work out. If you've got questions, please, please, please engage with us. We'd love to hear from you and we'd love to help where we can. Lisa, Joanna, anything else in closing?
No, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you, Mark, for guiding us. And then I smiled like that when Mark said about the timing. I walked in somewhere for an appointment and they had an egg timer on the desk, the sand in the hourglass, sorry, and I said, please don't shift it. So yes, we had to know our thing today to get through it. But reach out, that's the invitation, is reach out. We've got a wealth of information we can share.
Joanna, anything you want to add? Steph?
Same. Thank you so much for the time that was given. We really managed to work through it. Thank you so much. This is it's nice. Thank you so much to everyone who attended.
Fabulous. So I think I'm going to close it off there. We will, whatever we couldn't address in this, we will answer in the post-webinar email with the presentation and the information pack. For those of you with financial year ends now in February and in March, and you're looking for a solution, please reach out to us. We can assist you, even if you've got a financial year end coming up in June. Speak to us. Let us see how we can help you. Otherwise, have a fabulous Wednesday. Have a good week and an amazing February. Bye-bye. Oh, don't forget, it's Valentine's Day on Saturday. Don't forget. May this be a reminder. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.